Three, two, and one. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to an amazing episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Sharon Show. Today, we have no guests, so you just get a lot of Sharon and Brandon. We're going to be Sharon about a lot of things. We're really excited today to catch up with everybody. We haven't really done a solo episode in quite some time because we've had so many amazing guests. And if you guys haven't seen the amazing guests, go back. We've had Benjamin Balderson, we had Topher, which is doing really well. I guess he's shared it, so one of our videos has almost like 1,000 views, which is huge for us. So check that one out. I'm blanking on our other guests that we've had. Sharon, help me out. Who else have we had on?
Oh, we've just been oversharing with lots of people.
We have been oversharing. We had Mario from Symbolic Studies on. That dude was great. We had Chance
his woman, Michelle.
Michelle, which Mario's woman. We had Woodshop, The Wise, not too long ago. So yeah, go check those out. And we have a lot of good stuff in the works. We've been planning on getting some other guests. So you never know who you might see here on the Oversharing Show. Maybe Donald Trump. Just kidding. I'd have him on the show, but I don't. That would be hilarious.
Oh, that would be funny.
Can you just say China for me?
China.
that video where they show, or it's a meme and it shows Trump and then it like shows his mouth and he's just saying China and then the crowd goes crazy. China. Anyway, let's start off with a quote like we do every week. Our quote today is, if you are ever tempted to look outside for approval, realize that you have compromised your own integrity. If you need a witness, be your own. And that's by Epictetus. I think that's how you say it. One of these
that's a great one.
Based Greek guys, right? Is that who he was? Probably.
That's yeah.
And let me tell you, I've been following Ben from The Archivist. His channel is The Archivist with Analog or whatever. His name is Ben. I guess he's been on Twitter for like 10 years, sharing all these old articles in newspapers from like the 1800s, early 1900s. And the stuff that they were finding over Alaska in the West, because that's what he's covered so far, is amazing. There's like Greek stuff, but living next to like Chinese people, living next to like all these people. And the farther that they seem to dig down, it's more advanced. We got less advanced as we went along. So, there's these canal works. I was telling Sharon in Phoenix and in Arizona where she lives, there's these canals that they use to this day that they just unburied. They were terracotta, these intricate canals that go for like miles and miles and miles. They just unburied them and started using them again.
Lord, I still haven't watched that. Sorry.
No, that's cool.
I am, I'm going to say I'm right on time with all the videos I'm watching. I'm just right on time. I'm not going to say I'm behind anymore, because the truth is, I always watch something exactly when I need to see it. So I'm right on time.
Feels like everything happens exactly when it needs to. It's the
does.
Oh, Cosmic Lichens. What's up, Joe and Zerlather in the chat? Yeah, it seems that everything kind of happens as to God's plan, not to your own plan. And when you can learn to recognize that, I'm just saying hi to everyone in the chat. I feel like your life gets so much better. Like on the way here today to my house, I was at my lovely woman's house, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this, but she discovered one of her cats had a flea or two on it, and she was like freaking out. And she's like, "How are you so calm?" And I'm like, well, I know a friend that died with a 1-year-old daughter, and his wife was left by herself. So,
worse things have happened.
Yeah. And it could be.
And dare I say, they're not even worse necessarily, right?
Yeah. Just different things that you would view, we're still, because we have this plan, this trip. We're going to go visit her cousin this weekend, and she lives in New Hampshire, but we had an Airbnb in Vermont, and we're not sure if we could still make it because there's a guy that's going to come and spray, but the lady that's coming to watch her cats might not want to come because of the, if there's fleas. Again, we only saw, she thought she saw one last night, and we got a flea comb, and I combed the heck out of that cat. I didn't see anything. then this morning she did find one or two. So it's definitely in the beginning stages, because I've seen crap. Like I rescued squirrels once, baby squirrels, and they were covered. They were like swimming. The fleas, thank God they didn't get anywhere in my house or whatever, but
oh God.
we were able to get them to safety. Ooh, Joe's here. What's up, Joe? Hey.
Yeah. Every time I say, hey, Joe, now I think of that song. Hey, Joe.
Two Joes, Giuseppe and Joe.
I don't know who sings that song.
That would be oh my God, it just
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, I was gonna say Steve. I'm like, no, I saw his face, but Steve Hendrix, that guy.
The only reason I know that is because Cody plays that song in the band that he's been in Jersey. So they play that song pretty regularly. So that's the only reason I know it. So now I think when I say hi and I say, hey, Joe, to any of the Joes, Cosmic Lichens and Joe P, Joker's Redemption, that's what I think of.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. The Dell Paxton says, you can't rescue anything. That's right.
That's right. I don't.
They have to rescue themselves.
Basically, what happens is, yeah, they do. I was like, come on, baby squirrel, rescue your damn self. We tried. They were cutting a tree down, and when I was living in my old place, and I lived upstairs, and my neighbor downstairs was out there, and they found a squirrel nest, and the guys there were just gonna throw it in the wood chipper. And she's like, I think there's babies in there. So she stopped them, and then we put them in a box. We actually tried leaving them near the tree, because sometimes the mom will come get them. There's another tree. And that didn't happen. So we called this place and we just met them, and they came and took them.
Oh, little baby squirrels.
Yeah, they were so
cute. Chipmunks are cuter because they're like tinier and their little tails are smaller. Super cute. The Otis Taylor version of Hey Joe is cool. I gotta probably listen to the difference.
Oh, I was thinking Otis Redding, Otis Taylor.
Yeah, I don't know either of those two. Jimi Hendrix is, he's popular enough that I know the name, but I don't really know his music either.
Oh, no problem. He said,
oh my gosh. Is it really Lee Moses? I think he's joking. I don't know.
Moses Jones. No, Otis Redding is the one that sings that song, Dock of the Bay, sitting in the morning sun. I'll be. Yeah, that was Top Gun made that song come back.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe the old one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I need to rewatch the old one, and then I need to see the new one. I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, always said look it up. Cool.
We're on the computer here, like recording. Can someone look it up for us? Just kidding. So I pulled a card.
Capybara wins all arguments. Yes, Joe. Zeralath, I mean, I am the capybara.
He spelled it capybara. The way he spelled it.
Capybara. Yeah. Phonetically.
Yeah. So I pulled the 3 of Cups, right? Abundance. Oops, sorry. I know this is terrible, you guys.
I'm going to pin your thing so don't go anywhere. There you go. Okay, everyone can see it nice and large.
There's too much light. Sorry. There's too much light. It just
too much light. Well, you can still
washes it out, so I'm holding it at an angle.
That's a really big synchronicity.
The 3 of Cups?
Yeah, because I went to a tarot thing.
Back on the both of us whenever you're ready.
Wow. Last Thursday after our premiere, I went to a tarot meetup, and it was somebody that saw us. Shout out to Kat. She saw us Chance on our show, but on Chance's channel, because he put it there, Chance Garten. And she saw I was in Connecticut, so she reached out and she said they do a tarot thing once a month. They just started it. Would have been the second one, so we showed up. And there were some newbies there, so the guy went over everything. But the guy's familiar with Michael Tessarion. So it was really cool. So Michael Tessarion has this system where by your birthday, you line up with a major arcana card, or I'm sorry, a minor arcana card, major too, but a minor arcana, and mine is the 3 of Cups. And what you do is you shuffle the deck and then you look through it, and the card after the 3 of Cups is your card. Like if you want to do a 1 card reading or whatever. What was the card after it?
Ah, crap. I don't know.
That's all right.
Dang it.
It was we all know it was the tower. No, I don't know. I was trying to think of something funny.
Shoot.
That's
I
cool
could
though.
pull two other cards out, but I have this book and I want to read a little bit from it. Ooh, check this out. There you go. Mercury and Cancer.
Ooh.
Overflowing, and you're a Cancer. Overflowing exchange of love. Isn't our episode talking about love? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Rare, valuable feelings and perception which can be communicated intimately. The 3 cups are made of pomegranates. This rare and delicious fruit symbolizes the vital treasures inherent in uncommon love. The cups stand on golden lotus blossoms, and golden lotuses fill them to overflowing. Love pours out with overflowing joy. The love represented here is of the highest order. It is available to be shared with only a small circle of people. The 3 cups may stand for 3 important people in your life with whom you can exchange these precious and exquisite feelings with great intimacy. Such relationships are rare gifts. Care for them with respect and gratitude. I love this. Aw. I can think of 3 important people in my life. That's awesome. You have something especially valuable to share. This is the indication part. Be open for the people who can share these exquisite feelings with you. They are also a gift. You don't need to look for them. Question: are there any people toward whom you have not yet outwardly expressed the love you feel for them? Suggestion: give whatever you would like to now in full awareness of your boundless riches. I'll read that again. Give whatever you would like to now in full awareness of your boundless richness. This is abundance. And affirmation: today, life gives me everything I need to be happy. That's awesome, because I've just been like resonating with like abundance and just like living in abundance. There's no lack.
Yeah. And speaking of no lack, we have 10 people in our chat, which is a great number for us on a Thursday afternoon. We're excited for everybody that's here. And shout out to Trish. She just came in, and I think we shouted everyone else out. But no, yeah, I think that's so true about that whole abundance thing, like it when you kind of are scared or you have a fear that you're gonna not have enough money or whatever it is. I think that the realm gives you that. I've heard people say before, like, be careful what you wish for, be careful where you dwell on your thoughts.
Careful what you worry for.
Yeah, but careful your thoughts that you dwell on, because it's like the universe or whatever, the realm, it can't, or God can't, well, I guess God could, but it doesn't know no. It just knows what you're thinking of and what you're picturing, and then it wants to try to, especially when you're doing physical actions that go along with that. So if you're worried about not having money and then you're pinching and all this stuff, it's kind of like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I've seen that happen in my own life so many times. And then now I just am like, well, the money situation is going to be the money situation, and we're just going to go with it. And if I feel like I should buy something, then I'm going to buy it. And if not, then I won't. So.
Right. I concur.
Because like between 2013 to 2014 or 15, I went crazy buying guns, allegedly. And then I was like,
now you have them all.
And then around like 2020, when I couldn't work and all this stuff, I was like, fuck, I don't have, if I had that money, it might be better. I was like broke for a while, like just barely, but I made it through. I made it through every situation I needed to. And then my guns like doubled in value because of what's been going on. So that's like, oh, maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. So yeah, you never know, right?
You never know. But yeah, so great card. I think in the Rider-Waite, it's also indicative of like friendship and gathering. I think there's 3 women holding their cups up together. So that always kind of also represented like community to me.
Yeah, they're kind of like
my peeps.
together. Yeah, exactly. Having a good time holding up that cup. And we all know what cups represent. So it's like you're
Emotions and
showing it to the world and you're excited and you're all sharing it. So yeah, it's perfect for this episode too, because
yeah.
I mean, if you look at the episode, it's over Sharon and love. So we plan on talking about, because both Sharon and I separately, for people who don't know or new to this, Sharon has her own man and I have my own woman. We're just really good friends, like brother and sister level. Yeah, just to clarify, we're not coming out as in love, everybody. But if that brought you here, then hey, stick around. We get these clickbaity titles. But we both entered relationships. It's kind of
around
toward
the
the
same
end.
time.
Yeah, middle end of last year. Mine was like October when it started to manifest, because I was talking with Elizabeth about it actually, and she went to visit her cousin the weekend before that. We went hiking, and then she professed her love for me. And so she had that marked down. So it was, and it's funny because it was October 14th, and my parents
Got married?
they got married. I
Engaged.
believe it was the 13th.
Oh, wow.
The 12th, no, yeah, 13th, because one of my really good friends growing up, his birthday was the 12th of October. So I'd always screw that up. And your birthday's on October
9th. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's right around that area. It's just like this, the July. There was a lot of birthdays in my realm, in my
Sphere.
yeah, and that guy Ben, his birthday's July 2nd. The guy I was talking about, the archivist.
Holy smokes. And wasn't Mario on your birthday?
Mario, who we had on as guest, was also July 2nd, and Ben is 10 years younger than me. I don't remember how old Mario was. I think he's right around my age somewhere, but
a few years younger, maybe.
yeah. Yeah, I had somebody at a wedding. The lady that was a bartender was like, oh, afterwards, she's like, oh, that was awesome. And I go to this place a lot, so I don't know if she didn't remember me or whatever. She's like, when are you coming back? And we were talking. She's like, yeah, I just turned 36 or something about being old. And I'm like, it must be nice to be so young. She's like, how old are you? I'm like, I just turned 47. She was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm aging backwards, lady. Don't tell nobody. It's funny because the clients I have now, I'm starting to like be the age of their parents sometimes. Like this guy was like, yeah, we'll have some older people, like 40s, 50s. I'm like, yeah, older people.
Yeah. Like I could be your dad, dude.
I'm like, oh, I'll rock that party then, guy. Like I know what to play.
Yeah.
Dwayne was saying that to me, the owner of the company, for everyone who doesn't know that he owns the DJ company.
Dwayne.
Dwayne. And he trained me how to DJ. A year or two ago, he was saying that. He's like, I had some clients, they were like early 20s and their parents were like, he's like, I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, just who cares? But yeah.
But yeah, so we're talking about the title of our show.
Exactly. See, we're right in sync. I was just gonna get right back to that. I love it.
Yes.
And so yeah, we both got into these relationships, or whatever you want to call them, right around that time. Now mine was a little different because I think I talked about this a little bit before, but my woman was in a relationship that she was not happy with. So there was a time where she had already told the guy she was with all about this stuff first. And because I guess, I don't want to get into it too much, but I guess he approached her about having an open relationship or something. I don't know. And she was just like, here's my chance to be like,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we waited to get like really serious or intimate or whatever. We waited like at least 3 months, which at the time, I think she didn't really want to wait as long, but now looking back, she really is grateful. And it's crazy because I don't know if it was a video that I was watching, or it was the guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yes.
And you sent me some
clip. I sent you that clip, didn't I?
Yeah. And then I went and I watched a couple other podcasts, and he was saying how women, if you want to be with a man, or if you meet a man, he's giving you a lot of pressure to sleep with you, just tell him, listen, I want to sleep with you, but I just have to wait a little while or whatever. And he was saying the reason is that you want to do that is because men will just kind of conquer things, and they're just like, oh, and then they're like on to the next one, or they like I used to describe it. I would say that like I would get bored with women or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he said is because men don't have time to actually build a proper relationship and respect and love for this woman. So it's just a physical thing. So that goes away quickly. And then when you take the time to do that, which I did It's really made a big difference to me in my life. So shout out to my woman if she's watching. I sent her, I'm sure she's going to watch this one. I sent her a clip of it, but yeah, and I noticed that is a lot different. So let's see, I did hear before, right, about the 3 cups of birthday. Yes, the 3 of cups, and your card is the one after it. Yes, Zero laughed. Sorry, I'm getting to the chat, but yeah, so I'm really glad that I did that. And I took off, like, it was like almost 4 years that I was basically celibate. Like, once I realized all this stuff about myself, and then I took like a hermit time, and then I was trying to find a woman to get in a relationship with. And Sharon, the lovely Sharon, was like, you know what? You just got to wait for it to be right, Brandon. Cause I was like talking to this woman online that was like across the country or whatever. And she was like, you got to find some that like likes crystals or whatever. And it's funny because Elizabeth has more crystals than like most crystal stores we go to. And she plans on opening her own little shop. So yeah, it's crazy how that works out. And it's like we already know, we just don't know. On some level, we know these things. That's like your intuition. I think that's what that's all about. Call it your higher self or whatever it is, already knows all this. Maybe we lived through this all before and we're doing it again or whatever it is. And it knows. So you have this feeling, and you can either ignore that feeling, or you could tap into it and go with it. And that's what we call about, we talk about like cultivating your intuition and all that stuff. And I think that's huge, because I think there's so many instances in my life where I had this feeling to do something. And when I did it, something crazy happened. Like just driving down the street, I had a feeling to go a different way, and I went that way, and then I ran into a friend or whatever. And then certain situations where I had that feeling and I didn't listen to it, and then something bad or negative happened, or even if it's something silly. But it's really crazy how this all works. And that's another reason why I tell people, something I had to learn was to not be so hard on myself. And when it comes to making decisions, there's really only one way it's ever going to play out. It gets back to like, is there free will? Isn't there free will or whatever? I feel like, yes, there is free will. Most of it has to do with how you feel about what's going on around you. Are you a victim or are you a victor? And I just heard Topher say that on that show he did with Stellium 7. Shout out to those two guys. They did an awesome podcast. Go watch it. And
I'm only like 20 or 30 minutes in.
Yeah, it got really good. The stuff he was talking
about. Where to go?
Like, because Stellium brought up like, we could be living in a simulation kind of thing. And Topher didn't balk at it, but he just kind of explained what he thought. And and then the Stellium guy's like, yeah, he's like, it's kind of like it's like God, you could just look at it as a simulation, just use that word or whatever. But of course we think it's a spiritual realm, but again, we don't know all these things. But yeah, so anyway, going back to being not hard on myself. This is something actually Michelle helped me a lot with. Michelle from JID.
Michelle
Albers, who's been our guest. Something she was telling me about, because, well, she didn't say this part, but she's like, about being hard on yourself. You got to go easier on yourself. And especially for decisions that you might have made or whatever, because you never know what could happen. Like, say there was something 10 years ago and you're like, I wish I just did this thing 10 years, whatever it was. But you could have done that, and then you could have immediately got hit by a bus like a week later and got killed. Like, we don't know. So I feel like there really is only one way it ever is going to work out. And that's kind of how
steps you took led you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you were here because of all those steps you took.
Exactly. And you can't really make the wrong choice because of that. So yeah, sure, we still do have free will. We could still choose all these things. But I think part of this stuff is like, oh man, I lost my train of thought, because RoboHonky's in the chat and he said simulation theory is creationism for atheists. That's hilarious. Shout out to RoboHonky. But yeah, so you do have free will, but there is some kind of power or whatever, the all or the God or your higher self or whatever it is, that already knows the whole thing. Right. So yes, in this moment, we're making these decisions, but something else is viewing this from a higher angle and could see what already happened and what's going on and where we're going to go. So that part of it already has all this unconditional love for us. So I think that as above, so below, and then you could just show yourself this unconditional love. And this is the kind of talk that gets you into like new age things, because they take these concepts and they kind of go in left field with them, where we're talking about, yes, you have to honor the physical and the spiritual. But if you look at it this way, the reason why we say it, it's because you don't have to view yourself like as a victim, you know. And that's one thing I always have issues with, like trying to make decisions with things. And it's funny because it's in my personality type or whatever. Or if you look at your astrology, there's things with me that like I hate to make decisions like that. And I'm just always like putting them off and stuff. So I've been working on that a bunch. And I realized that even if you make the quote unquote wrong decision, it's going to come back around. There's like a cycle. Something's going to come back around and show you. And then you could just jump off at that point. It's like you're on a merry-go-round. You know, you have your chance to jump off. You don't. So you go around one more time. And then you could like, shit, I really. And that's exactly what it was like for me when I was
cycles. That's what life is. You'll get another chance. Like if something happens, you just you'll get another chance to test that out.
Until you don't. And then guess what? We're all gonna die anyway. But that's what it was like for me to wake up to when I had really severe intimacy issues and I was kind of just jumping around from woman to woman. After a while, I was just like, this is losing like it just doesn't do what it did for me anymore. I wonder if that's what heroin addicts experience. Like after a while, they're just like, man, this sucks. So
yeah, do it till you're done.
Yeah. And that's when you'll really know, because say if I rode myself really hard and I like years before I listened to people and they're like, no, you shouldn't do that. And I stopped and I forced myself to stop doing this bad behavior
with guilt and shame and all that.
And I was using that like a whip. Well, then it's going to come out somewhere else, right? I'm going to like go bald or, you know, I'm going to like, who knows, gain weight or have another unhealthy addiction, you know, just transfer. That's what happens a lot of times with people.
Yeah, like you said,
with like
a transfer of the trauma or something.
Yeah, right. Like alcoholics will become like gambling addicts, or they, you know, they're not
just pick up another
anymore.
Escapism.
Yeah, they're just eating donuts and coffee all the time or whatever it is, you know. So, and again, I'm sure I have my my escapism. I mean, I talked about Dune nonstop, although I did stop listening to that the last time I listened before we did that podcast, so I haven't.
Oh wow!
Any Dune, yeah, because I figured I'm like good at a point. Like I got to start. Like we did that show. Shout out to Benjamin Balderson and Joshua, the tree,
the branch,
the tree. They gotta have you.
You know. Sure. Oh really? You really thought it was the tree? You're so funny.
I just I knew it wasn't right.
I thought it was like, a joke. I was like, no, the branch. Because that's a Bible thing. Did you know that that's a biblical thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, explain it.
In the Old Testament somewhere, I'm blanking out on where exactly. There's a description of Joshua, and it's kind of like people will say, oh, that's the description of like Jesus, because people say Jesus is actually Joshua. Yeshua is really the name that was like anglicized and made into Jesus or whatever. But the branch is oh gosh, now I'm blanking out on what it actually means. But anyway, Jesus is also called this branch. So there's like another word that I'm missing on the meaning, the original word that means the branch. But it all is like allegory and symbolism for Jesus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I could see that. It sounds familiar, but irregardless, we did Josh the Branch and Benjamin Balderson and I did a episode about Dune. We did a live, so go check that out. We got really good feedback on that one. So I put a lot of my knowledge, but I also have an idea of where I think I'm going to make a solo video and catch everybody up to the Dune book with like everything that happens, even with the prequels that were written by his son, by Frank Herbert's son and Kevin Anderson. So I'm gonna, this way, if anybody hasn't, you know, is curious as to what was going on in the Dune universe, instead of going and reading all those books or listening to the hours, they could just watch my show. Oh, Trish says branch or vine. There you go. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, I think that's what it was. And I've just looked it up, and it's talking about Zechariah 6:12. And speak unto him, saying, thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, behold the man whose name is the branch. So it was like a prophecy of the branch. which was Jesus, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. So that's what that's about.
So my apologies to Josh. You're not listen, we're all trees, we're all these great things, but
Jesus.
Yeah.
It all goes back to Jesus.
Jesus. Oh, Jesus Christ. How does that go to the South Park?
The one from, what did you tell me it was from?
South Park.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Got like a hamster in his butt, like trying to get it. Yeah, dude, what a crazy that, I was just talking with Joe. Shout out to Joe's in the chat. Joe P. We were talking about South Park and how amazing it used to be, like how they used to point things out. And then something happened and they were just like, yeah, go get that experimental molecule serum. It'll be fine. Yeah, it's like, where were you guys? Where were you? But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Level, I guess, who knows? Yeah, so back to what we were talking about with our lovely relationship. So yeah, so that's kind of how mine came about. And then we would just go hiking a lot. And I came into this relationship though fully consciously aware of that, shadow work could also go on with another person. It's like the next step. And I feel like I was right in the right area to do that, because I came across the victim consciousness thing. I was working really hard on it, as I still do all the time. I try to not be a victim in every situation that I could figure it out, be the victor. And so when we were having interactions, I was fully conscious of that. And the amazing thing is she is really conscious of that too. So she's open to a lot of this stuff. And some of the conversations we had in the beginning were a little hard, but we worked through them. And even these days, we've been at it now since October. Our conversations still remain in that area whenever we're having either, I don't know, like a disagreement or whatever you want to say, we still talk about that stuff. And I think about it a lot because she might do something and I might think it's annoying, but then I'm like, well, why is this annoying to me? Like, let me think about it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just being a little bitch. Like, that's what it is, and then I could just kind of let it go. And it is really some amazing shadow work. So
yes, absolutely.
I would suggest to anybody, if you're in the shadow work thing and you're looking for, if you're single, or even if you have a significant other, you can use them as a mirror as yourself. And it works both ways. Like I was telling her just yesterday, I spent the night over there last night, and I was telling her how she actually makes me better, because all these ideas that I want to have and things that I want to do in the show, she loves my show. I think she just likes the sound of my voice. But I'll bring up an idea and she's like, yeah, you should do that. That's a great idea. And I was thinking about what a mirror that is, right? It's the same thing. So just because someone's in a mirror to you in a relationship, it doesn't mean it's just all your bad things. It's your good things too, because they could give you, like she does, she gives me extra confidence and the extra step to go ahead and do that, because I realize that she's really smart. She's been a lot of this stuff. She never covered her smiling face, all these things that I really respect her for. And if she respects me for it, then there must be some truth to it, right? Like it's definitely true. So then I could have that feeling inside and I can embody that. And it helps me, every day with things like that. So, and again, it's not like you meet somebody and then it's perfect, and you're like, oh, this is great. And you never have to worry about anything. I think there's always going to be struggles and trials and tribulations. But if you could remain in that frame of mind and just use it as a mirror and realize that, sometimes you're the cause your problems, like we were saying on that other episode of Benjamin Balderson, sometimes the common denominator is you. And that was great. It's so true.
I remember that from years ago. You are the common denominator in all of your failed relationships.
Yeah, it's so true, little like old cycles. I'm trying to think of things that would come back up. I'll think of it as we go, but and I would just look at myself and think about that, and I'd be like, oh wait, no, that was me or whatever. And Trisha said Scott and I were in bliss for the first 10 years. Now it's rocky.
It's okay.
I mean,
sometimes it starts off rocky and then gets, more clear. Sometimes it starts great and then starts getting more rocky. Yeah.
Well, plus the external world has been going crazy the past 3 years or 4 or whatever the hell it is. So that's definitely going to have an effect on it too, which people don't realize. So people that have been in a relationship longer, this is another opportunity to work on that kind of stuff. And
yep.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's not like it's perfect, but if you could come at it from that frame of mind, it's going to be so much better, because a lot of people are out there looking, they think that they're incomplete, right? They're like, I need somebody. And I hear this a lot. Like, I mean, you ran the singles chat for a while, right? There's a lot of people that just want to find somebody and they feel like once I find somebody, it'll be great. We'll get a homestead, or we'll start keeping bees, or we'll start robbing banks together, whatever it is, right? And I think that that's really where you could go wrong. And again, like we were saying before, it's fine. You make the wrong decision, you got to learn. That's why we're here. So go ahead and make those wrong decisions. We'll still love you here at the Oversharing Show. But if you really are sick of that in your life, and that's what happened to me, I did it till I was done, right? So now I'm looking for a different way. And it's crazy because a lot of the relationships I see out in the world, it's the other way. And I don't know what the right word is, but it seems inverted or whatever, a lot of it. And people are fighting against each other, like a husband and wife or whatever, in the outside world because of that, or somebody is getting that energy, right? But if you work together, and that's what I told her one time, I'm like, if we're ever in a situation where shit's going down, I'm like, just get behind me, get my back. Like, here's a knife for you or whatever. I'll handle the shit coming at us. You just watch my back. And I think that is a great analogy for just a relationship in general. It's like, have my back. Okay, we don't agree about this little shit. It's a perfect example because we were trying to get our cats to mingle. Oh, no. And she has a separate room that has a loft in it where I keep my cats. And then sometimes we'll let them out, and sometimes they're cool. Sometimes they'll hiss at each other in like little fights or whatever. Nothing crazy, but we had this amazing, crazy thunderstorm going on one night, and all the cats were in the same room, and they were chill. They were just like all like loafed out in that position, like just chilling.
They were dealing with the pain together.
Yeah. And that's what I said. I'm like, there's an external enemy right now. There's this loud noises. And my cats were always cool with thunderstorms and fireworks because I live near the beach and you get a lot of those. So they weren't scared or whatever, but they were just mad chill. And everyone was like, all right, we don't have to have our little cat fights now because there's like gods out there bowling or whatever. They used to say when we were younger, God's up there moving furniture. They would tell us that when it was like thunder and lightning. The angels are bowling. I'm like, can they fucking bowl on a Tuesday morning? What the hell? No. Yeah.
So I don't know how to pronounce his name. RVNEZ Beats says, LOL, we're the magic ingredient in the meal we love to complain about eating.
Oh, man. 100% right. Officer, I'm not robbing the bank for advanced shadow work. It's not about them. Oh, I'm robbing the bank for advanced shadow work. It's not about the money. Exactly. He gets it. I mean, there's all kinds. There's halves out there everywhere, and they come together, and sometimes they rob banks. Look at Bonnie and Clyde or whatever. It's, I don't know. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, but yes. Learning to not be the victim when you're in a relationship is the key.
As Zerlath said, Thor trauma bonding pets. Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And I'm trying to think of I'll think of it as we go, but I'll let you talk a little bit because I talked a lot. How was you blogged a lot about your relationship and stuff, so it's out there for people to see.
I mostly just blogged about like how things started out, how we met and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, we're going back and forth between here and Jersey. So I think it's a blessing to also be like have a distance because it provides for more learning experiences. Like not being in the same house or the same room all the time is helpful to get to know each other better. It's kind of like I was talking to a friend of theirs while I was there. I just got back yesterday from Jersey. I was there for a couple of weeks. But I was talking to a friend of his, the wife of his friend, who's they're now my friends too. But I was talking to her, and she was talking about how in her day when she had met her now husband, they didn't have the communication abilities that we do with the technology we have. So there was like Friday nights that they would have to talk on the phone. And back in the day, you had long distance. So she was in Florida and he was in Jersey, and they'd have multiple hours, and so they would like trade off, like every weekend one of them would pay, the other weekend the other one would pay for this long distance phone call, and then they would write each other letters. And so it's useful to have these different dynamics for communication and relationships. So it's a good because I could complain and be like, this sucks. Why couldn't I have met somebody here? Or, why couldn't I have met somebody local? Or why couldn't he have met somebody local? You know what I mean? So, but I try to use these things as a learning experience, and a room for gratitude, find the silver lining. So, so I'm here for like another couple of weeks, then I'm going to be going back, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to go back. So this summer, I will be avoiding the 116-degree weather here in Phoenix. So I'll be happy about that. It's just blazing out here. And I took a shower earlier. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I took a shower earlier, and the water, I had it on full cold. It was blazing. I couldn't stand under the water. Like the first few minutes was fine because it wasn't that hot, but the longer I stood there, it just got hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is ridiculous. So
you sure you weren't going to hell?
I know. So I'm grateful for going to Jersey in a couple of weeks, because I won't get this blazing hot water. Like, how they make water heaters, right? Why don't they make water coolers for like freaking Phoenix? Because this is insane. I've been saying it for years.
You're gonna have to get a giant Poland Spring thing or whatever, one of those big water
tanks with cold water in it.
Yeah.
This is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I was thinking
I'm
that
grateful.
when you said that.
I'm grateful.
I was thinking that exact thing. I'm like, they should make water coolers. Well, they do, and people gossip near them at offices. But the water coolers for your basement, for your or whatever. For your
Poland Spring.
That is crazy. I can't even fathom that. That's one good thing, because it was pretty warm here. It got probably close to 90s, but it was like 90-something% humidity. And Elizabeth always had really cold running water. It was amazing. And it's funny because at my parents' house, when I'm here, they just got the hot water heater or something fixed, and the cold water isn't as cold as it used to be here. It's still pretty cold, but I was like, it's not like freezing cold. I'm like, so
yeah. But yes, we met. I mean, you've seen the blogs. Some of you have seen the blogs, how we met. And that was in like September. The beginning of September is when we declared our feelings for each other. And so it's almost going to be a year. And I will be out there for the anniversary of that. So should be fun.
Yeah, we're going to be hanging out, actually.
Yeah.
Over Sharon party.
Yeah. With Joe P.
A few people.
Yeah.
That are coming from Germany. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah, I was really excited for you because I remember we were both going through this just last summer. Doesn't it feel like it was just yesterday? We were like, we got to find a woman. I got to find a woman. You got to find a man. And we were going through all this stuff and having different experiences. But, and you had been talking to Cody for a while online. You were friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it kind of goes to what I was saying before, where you meet somebody and you're friends with them first, right? Because, and I've jumped into a lot of these things, right away. And in my past. And let me tell you what that guy was saying from Women Are From Mars, or Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's so true. And like what he said about the arguments, we should probably talk about that. He basically said when he's having an argument with his wife, or his wife starts to like get loud or start to, you know, get emotional about something, he'll just say to her, I hear you, you know, I hear you. And then he'll go away if he has to, because the way that men in general process and deal with these things, you know, they're always trying to like solve problems, and the way the rage is like, in, I don't know, you might have understood it better. I can't remember exactly what he said, but
yeah, men don't want to talk about it. Women feel like they need to say it, to express it, to feel heard. And all they're wanting, or all they're hoping for, is just to know that they're heard, that they're acknowledged, that they, even if the guy doesn't necessarily agree, but as long as he's like, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, that's a lot of what they need to feel.
Yeah, it goes back to that. There's a Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes movie called White Man Can't Jump that I used to love back in the day. And Rosie Perez was in it, and she was Billy Ho was the guy who what's his name, played the white guy. What's his name? Woody Harrelson. Yeah, he played this character, and his girlfriend was Rosie Perez. And at this one point, they had a conversation, and she said to him, you know, if I tell you I'm thirsty, I don't want you to get me water. I want you to tell me that you know what it's like to feel thirsty, and you know, you kind of empathize or whatever, you know, like when and he's just like, he's like, what do you mean? If you're thirsty, I'm just going to get you some water, right? You know, I'm going to solve your problem, because men are problem
want to solve the problem. Right. It's like the, did you ever see that? It's making fun of this whole concept, but it's like a woman has like a nail stuck through her forehead.
Yeah.
And the dude's like looking at her, and she's like, you know, I just have this horrible headache. I just don't understand why. And, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's looking at her like, you have a nail on your forehead. I just need to take it out and you'll be better. And she's like, but I'm just like, why? You know, I just feel so bad. My head hurts at XYZ. And he's like, but I can pull it out for you like right now. You just need to let me help you. And that's not what she wants, clearly, right? She just wants to be heard.
Exactly. And so I'll say that sometimes now, or I want to say it more when I'm with Elizabeth and she is telling me something or expressing herself. I'll be like, all right, do you need me to solve this problem or just listen to you? Like, you know, because I said that women, you know, they don't want men. They do love when men solve their problems sometimes, I'm sure, or if their problem could be solved. But I think that the first step would be to like tell them you understand and that you're heard, and you get that, because it happens with me a lot. I don't always communicate. I'll be quiet. She might say something and I already have that in my repertoire of things I'm going to do. So I might not say something about it. And then so she'll like react to me not saying something about it, or, you know, start to do it herself or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, no, don't worry. I got this and that or whatever. So I think it's really crazy how just little misunderstandings lead up to these great things. It's like they say the straw that broke the camel's back. Really, that's what happens a lot. Right. And I see it with my parents a lot. And it's funny because my dad's a Cancer and I'm a Cancer. Elizabeth is a Leo. My mom's a Leo. So I thought about this a lot, right? Because people say,
"You're like, kidding."
No, not at all. Isn't that crazy?
That's insane.
So and I don't really know much more about, I got to get my parents' time of birth so I could like nail that down, but I think it was different back then. They're like, but yeah. So I look at that, and then when I see my parents interact, because I live here, my parents' house also sometimes, and I see how these little misunderstandings, or my mom will say something in one room and my dad either doesn't hear it. So my mom thinks that my dad's ignoring her, and then she gets all pissed off and fired up about it. And then it just like leads to a shouting match. And then,
which is not helpful.
Yeah. And then they're cool. The thing is too, though, like this is something I had to, I guess it's a good thing in one degree, but like people will have a shouting match and then they take some time apart. And then like an hour or two later, or whatever it is, even 10 minutes later, they're fine with each other. They're okay without ever having acknowledged that misunderstanding. So it's like we were saying with the cycles, it's just going to happen again and again and again.
Yeah. I feel like acknowledging it is important. though. Like I can't
Yeah.
just feel like the person walks away and then comes back and never says, look, you know, sorry about what happened, or like, I just want to clarify that blah, blah, blah from earlier. Like, I feel like I need that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause
Clarification. You know what I mean?
it'll lead to it happening again if you don't,
Right. That's how I feel that it
Yeah. In
would.
some situations it's good because it's not constant fighting, so it's like it's always a bad thing. But if you could resolve that core issue right away, I think,
Could it solve all the other ones? Like, could it like lead to not having more of those? Right.
yeah.
That's what I feel.
And I think
Would
because we're
happen.
both, you're a Libra sun and I'm a Libra ascending rising. So we kind of see both sides of different arguments. In my whole life, I've seen misunderstanding. Like I'll be listening to a podcast like years ago or whatever it is. And even now people misunderstand each other and they start like talking and I'm like, oh, that guy thought he's, I'm like, oh, I wish I was there. And I could have just been like, no, this is what he means. And I've done it on the show a couple times. I think I've like interjected really quick and been like, no, I think what she meant was this, that, or whatever. And they're like, oh, okay. So I think in relationships, and the funny thing is though, like you can learn all this stuff, right? And you can know it all and you could become some awesome relationship counselor, but unless the people want to change, it doesn't matter. You can give them all the advice in the world. And a lot of times you'll see a person in a relationship, one person wakes up to this, they're figuring it out, but the other one wants something to do with it. So you really can't even help anybody, I mean, obviously you can, but it's crazy how this works. It's like when you figure out, like, when I figured out about fluoride, I'm like, hey guys, fluoride, maybe I thought everybody would be excited to hear that information, and they're just like, shut up, Brandon, we're having a party here, you're killing our
Our
you
vibe
have to
here.
filter our water now. Fuck that, man. I just want to drink it right out of the tap and not have to worry when I go out. It's like, all right.
I thought you were saying Florida. I'm like, Florida? What
No,
about Florida?
Fuck Florida. Am I right, everybody? No. I'm just
Speaking of cycles and then coming back around again and like relationship. So I was in that. I talk about this because it's just, I think it's funny. And it's just an example of like, it'll come back around again until you learn what you need to learn from it. So I was in that 8-year relationship with my last boyfriend. And it was like a nonstop of like misunderstandings and just like in and out, up and down, in and out of, are we together? Are we not together? Are we like, whatever, what are we type of thing. And finally I let go. And, interestingly enough, he died 4 months later after I walked away from the relationship. And, not long after he died, I met somebody online from another country. And it was like instantaneous, like romance thing that I felt like I was pulled into, because I didn't even feel like I was romantically attached, but like I felt like he was. And so I was like, okay, what's going on here? For 3 weeks, like it was just like accelerated. And then it just fell apart. And I was just like, I saw the similar behavior that I saw in the previous relationship. And I was like, no, I can't have this. And I was like, sorry, dude, but no, this can't work, and it ended like 3 weeks. Boom, boom, boom. It was done. And not a couple months later, I meet this other guy and I spend 2 days hanging out with him. And that, like, the first day I should have known, but like, I still hung out with him the second day. And then it was like, no, this is the same thing. Like, I'm like, what am I why am I attracting the same thing? And it's like, it's me, right? I'm attracting that same thing because I'm jumping into something. I'm not paying attention. I'm not even friends with these people first. I'm just like, oh, I just met you. Hi, let's hang out or whatever. And
when Sharon says, let's hang out, everybody, we've made this just distinction before. She wasn't like, sleeping around and all this stuff.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. And so, he showed his true colors, of being just, unhealed from some trauma. And I'm like, I can't do this because he's, I can't do that. So I went from 8 years several months later, 3 weeks, a couple months later, 2 days. And I was like, after this, like I should know better. And then I knew that the next time I was going to be in a relationship, I was like, I just knew that it was going to be a conscious thing. Like it was going to be, I wasn't going to let those things happen before where I was going to attract somebody that was like that. You know what I mean? Where it was just accelerated weirdness that wasn't going to go anywhere. So yeah, Cody and I had already met. We'd known each other for like a year and a half before we met in person. So, we felt like we knew each other enough as friends online that, we met in person, and then we liked each other in person too. So.
And I met him in person like a year before. So he got my okay. I was like, hey,
stamp of approval.
And just to put a little point on something you said when you're talking about trauma, now everybody's got trauma, and I don't think Sharon or I would say we're not going to date somebody with trauma. It's just that we were looking for people who are aware of that they have trauma, or that trauma is a thing and it can affect their behavior. And they're like kind of looking into these things, right? Like, and so I just wanted to say that. And then Zindra in the chat said, any tips for someone that feels kind of hopeless regarding dating? Haven't even found anyone worthy of going out on a date with for 4 years or more. I'm like a nun now, completely like a grandma state. Well, I would just say, because I went through around 4 years of that, and I would say, if I could give any advice, and like the elves say in the Lord of the Ring, Fellowship of the Ring book, right? Not the movie, but in the book, Frodo and Sam and the two hobbits, when they first leave the Shire, they come across a bunch of elves going out west, and they camp with them for a night to stay away from the Dark Riders or the Black Riders or whatever. And the elf's like, listen, we learned a long time ago not to give advice. And the funny thing is, if you read the Silmarillion, you're like, yeah, I get it. This guy's like, we don't give advice anymore. That shit just goes. But I could tell you a couple things, and that's what I will do here. Not that I'm the aficionado that I know everything, but I would say one thing you could try is to look at your life and how you are now, and to try to be okay with that, or look at your relationship. I had it all in my head. Perfect. Right. But until I started to say it, but look at yourself maybe where you are, and try to be okay with that, with being alone and be in that state. Because I feel like I was saying earlier, when I was looking for somebody to kind of just complete me, and I'm like, oh, I'll just find this person and we can run away and live off grid and all this stuff. And that wasn't, that was my plan because of what I saw other people doing, but that wasn't the plan that God had for me. So maybe you could say to yourself, maybe there's a reason why you're single. Maybe there's something that I either have to learn or go through, or the guy that I'm going to be with isn't ready yet.
Right.
Or there's something going on, but it's just a mystery. And if you could accept that that's a mystery and still find joy in your life and be satisfied and happy, I think that's the best. Because
absolutely,
when you come across that person and you're in that frame of mind, you're going to be so much more attractive to them, especially if there's somebody who you want to be with that is looking at their trauma and doing all this stuff. And it's, you're not going to fall back into one of these relationships like Sharon was describing earlier. You're going to be able to build something good. So I think that's all I could really say. And I know it's probably not very comforting, or it's not like the best advice, but it's victim versus victor, right? Like,
right. I can relate to that. I can say that I had to get to a place where I was at peace with where I was. Because of course I was in an 8-year relationship that I couldn't make work, no matter how much I tried, no matter how much effort I put into it, no matter how much I tried to talk to him and try to make something work. It didn't work. It didn't help. So I had to be outside of that and say, it's okay. I'm okay. It's okay to be by myself and be happy with my state. Be happy, be thankful and grateful for everything and where I was. And that, I think that's the best state to be in, because if you're grateful for where you're at right now, you will be grateful if you meet somebody. If you can just be grateful right now.
Yeah, gratitude is huge. That's another thing I'd work on. I wake up in the morning and I would try to make and I should still do this now, but I try to make my first thought one of gratitude when I woke up in the morning, because no matter how bad your life is and you see it, there's always positive things in your life. Like you could have been one of these people who got the experimental medical serum. You know what I mean? Like there's so many other things you could have done. You could have been in the wrong spot and got hit by a bus and be dead now, all these different things. And yeah, shout out to Josh, just got in there. Jen, what's going on, guys? And I want to say what's up to Nigel. What's up, Nigel? But yeah, yeah, it's huge. And again, it doesn't seem like a comfort when you're in that state. You're like, oh, what do I have to be thankful for? But I can't answer that question. That's only a question that you can answer yourself, or whoever is watching this and is thinking these same things, because that is a very valid question. I'm not sitting here going like, oh, you just got to do this and you'll figure it out. Yeah, it sucks. I know, but I was actually, I'm very fortunate because of, I don't know what it is, my personality type, whatever, astrology, whatever it is, how I'm wired. I'm fine with being alone. Like people talk about solitary confinement, like you can't live in I'm like, dude, put me in solitary confinement. I'll be just fine. Like, you don't understand the worlds I can create in my head. You know what I mean? Like I'd have a novel by the time I was done. I'd written on fucking toilet paper, I'd be like, guys, like in shit. I'd be like, no, you gotta, so that's what I would do. That's all I could say for you. And, you could be even Zindra. Thank you. You're welcome, Zindra. She said, thanks, guys. You could be thankful that you found the Over Sharon show and you're one of because we're really niche, man. We're like Ed Hardy before everyone started wearing it, or like, I'm trying to think of like before everybody started jumping on a fad and it was still cool. That's us right now. So if you found us and you like us and you're listening to us, you could be thankful for that. You get to hear our awesome voices and my funny jokes and Sharon's great wisdom. So
speaking of, welcome Roxy Moser, who just found our channel.
Ooh, what's up, Roxy? Just found this channel. I agree that find common interests. Yeah, totally. Common interests are a huge thing. And yeah, I mean, that's basically where I'm at in just our things now that we're trying to overcome, and all this stuff is, I stopped sleeping in a bed several years ago. I just started sleeping on the floor, like on like either yoga mats or like this camping mat. And I love it. Like I'll sleep anywhere. And, Elizabeth is a woman, so she's not as like
she wants to sleep on a bed.
She's got curves and all this stuff. I'm just like a flat guy, just lay down. I'm good. So, but we made a really good compromise. We got a bed, a mattress that's more firm. And it was an organic one, which I'm very excited about. And it has two sides. So we put it on the softer side, and I was still having some issues. And then like last week we flipped it and it's great. And she actually likes it. She seems to be doing better with it. And so I'll still take some nights where I'll go sleep on the floor, but she really loves to cuddle, and I understand, and she likes to be next to me and stuff. So we've been working it out, and that's something that I've had to work on, because I could have just said, this lady's crazy. I'm going to sleep on the floor. If you don't like it, too bad. I could have done that, right? But I want to make it a partnership. Absolutely. And I want to build something. So I'm sleeping in a bed again, everybody. Don't tell the FBI. No,
you have to be open to what the universe is going to bring you, what God's going to bring you. So, I was over here thinking to myself, oh, it'd be, very convenient for me to meet someone locally. Then I wouldn't feel bad. Like if that person's going to move out here, I wouldn't feel bad that they're leaving their family or their friends for me or whatever. But I had to be open to the possibility that I can meet anyone. I didn't know where they were going to come from. I didn't know if I'd move. I didn't know if they'd move. I didn't know. So you just have to be open to possibilities. But like, I want to say to Zindra, because she said she's been wanting a relationship for 20 years. So, Brandon said this earlier, but, be careful what you wish for, but also I said, be careful what you fear, be careful what you're worried about. Because if you're chronically worried that you're never going to find somebody, then that's what will present itself. Right. So I think, again, bringing in that grateful attitude, the gratitude, thankfulness of where you are and everything in your life as it is really important, and being open to the possibilities of it happening whenever. You don't know if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And I had to come to a place where I had to just be like, God, I don't know if I'm going to meet anybody. I don't know if I'm going to be compatible with anybody. I would like to, but it's going to happen in its own time. And I have to be okay with that if it's going to happen. And if not, I was just like, you know what? I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy what I'm doing. And, so be it. I'll just, have friends, meet people.
That's a synchronicity, because I had that same kind of conversation with myself or with God or whatever it was, where I said, I would like to find a woman. And I remember because I remember how I went on that awesome trip when we met up, and it was in Sedona, and Adam and I and everybody went out to Colorado and Sedona. Before that, I had a conversation with my parents, and I told them, I'm like, I'm not like I changed my frame of mind on a lot of things. Like, I would actually love to find a woman and have a family and stuff like that if that works out. And so I was thinking about that. And then I had that same kind of conversation with myself later, probably last year at some point. And it's like, what, if I'm just meant to be alone, that's fine. Then I'm just going to be alone and make the best of that situation. And again, like I said, I don't mind being alone. So for me, it wasn't as scary, I guess. But that's, I think I had to be okay with that. It's kind of like, if you love something, let it go. And if it comes back to you, then
Exactly.
It's the same exact thing, right? It's when you are trying so hard, it's like Yoda says, there is no try. There's only do or do not. And yeah, we have some funny comments in the chat. Revisionez Beats was like, Brandon needs some floor action. And I was like, yes, total floor action. And Roxy said she's been in a 7.5-year relationship. She has a special needs sister that she takes care of, and her man has a son with special needs, and they become like a team or partnership in that almost past 8 years. So that's amazing. Yeah, that's really what it's like. It's crazy because growing up watching my parents fight all the time and seeing all my friends who were getting into relationships early, and then they would be like, they'd try to get out of the house as much as they can to get away from their wife or whatever. They'd come motorcycle riding or whatever it was, right? So that's why I always had that frame of mind, and I never really thought of what it would be like when I was really young. I did, but then I got older, and I got like, I was what's the word?
Jaded?
Yeah, I was jaded, and I was like, yeah. But now that I see the possibility of a partnership, it's like the potential is unlimited. And going back to what we were saying before, where you're that team, these little things that get in the way, you have to kind of prioritize the level of them. Like we say all the time with the division topic, right? We're like, well, if you meet somebody, prioritize. Like, do they eat babies? No. All right, well, then maybe you could be friends with them, right? It's like that whole thing. It's the same thing. Some of these issues that come up, if you can prioritize them and put them in the big picture, then it's not that big of a deal. And if you guys are a total partnership and are a real team, you're basically unstoppable. Like, what is it, when 2 or more gather in my name or whatever?
Allegedly, that's a Mandela effect.
Oh, why? What's it now?
I don't know. I think I don't know which one's which. I don't know which one's which, but it's like, yeah, I think it was when 2 or more, and then somebody said it, now it's like 2 or 3, or it used to be 2 or 3, and now it says 2 or more. I don't know. I heard that
33 or more are gathered in my name.
Ooh.
This Mandela thing, see, it's crazy because the Mandela thing fits right into our whole what's the word, worldview, really, because I think that the shit can change. Like, I don't think it's all the stuff that they say. Sometimes it is, but I think just because the way consciousness works, if we're literally creating our reality, then why would it not change? And that's what I'm going to tell the judge of, like, I didn't rob that bank. That's a Mandela effect. What are you talking about? Don't you know about Mandela, Your Honor?
Oh my God.
I'm not supposed to call him that. Joe, whatever the judge's name is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cody, the Del Paxton said, "You're never really alone." And that's true as well.
yeah, great. That's a great thing to say there. Funny and wise. You're so lucky, Sharon, to have him as your man.
I know. I'm super blessed.
Yeah. So as issues come up, it's funny because like I think in my department it's different because my woman basically is on the same page with me about the worldview. Although we did go through the whole space thing recently, which is hilarious because she's always heard me say that like space is probably fake and probably, gay or whatever. And she kind of had an idea of it. But then like recently, like just last week, we were talking about it and she like brought out all these books she had and she's looking at them and she's like, fuck, this is
These do
ridiculous.
look
Like
fake.
we looked at the lunar lander and I'm like, you think that thing survived in a vacuum? She was just like, oh my God. Like it was so crazy to see her face. Love you,
Oh
Elizabeth.
my
I
God.
think she's
Meth head
watching.
tree fort. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, the meth hedge tree fort. And then you see that they have a picture of the thing leaving. And I'm like, who took that picture?
Who took the picture? Yes.
This is the 60s. Like they're not, yeah. So anyway, but she was with as far as the spirituality stuff, she was kind of more on board, maybe a little more new agey, but that's how I came through this anyway. I got kind of stuck in the new age a little bit, but not really. And so I think with Cody, it's a little different because he has maybe a lot of this stuff is new to him. So I think it's great that you guys are able to maintain a relationship and not let it get in the way and still kind of talk about it. And obviously things are going to come up because all this stuff we're talking about, it could have dire consequences, right? Like if you think about it, like if there is a hell and you don't worship Jesus and you're going to go to hell. So I'm not saying like Cody's like that or whatever, but in a regular relationship, if you have somebody that, for example, is like a hardcore Christian, that's their whole thing. Cause I remember when I went through it, you're supposed to be an evangelist and evangelize to everybody, because if not, they're going to go to hell and it's going to be your fault that you didn't tell them about
Yes,
God. Right.
yes, yes. I remember that. That's the fear part of it. And that's where I can just be like, I don't fear. I've lost that. Not that I ever really, really had it much, because I was always very contemplative of the whole thing. I just saw people talk about, having a relationship with Jesus. And I'd be like, I don't really know what that means. Like, I'd just be like, what does that mean? Like, how do I have a relationship with Jesus? I don't know what that means. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Cody said he's currently wearing full Templar battle armor. Oh, that's great then, because spoiler alert, but I'm thinking the Templars were onto the same thing we were. I think a lot of these people were pretending they were like with Jesus, but they were like, they had a different idea of what the realm was. But no, I think it is amazing though that you guys are able to have a relationship and have these conversations about stuff like this, because this is the stuff that divides people. Like, even if I was just to make an argument and say to somebody, like if I was in a relationship with somebody and they were giving me grief about, say they were like a Buddhist and they're like, oh, you gotta fucking and I'd be like,
why
well,
are you
listen,
talking about Jesus? You're a Buddhist. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, right. I would, yeah, I would just say that, doesn't this seem like we're arguing about like football teams or, all these
Yes.
little things that are points of division when neither of us know, right? It's an unknown. So
Mm-hmm.
neither of us know. Why are we having an argument about something neither of us really know about? And I think as long as you're living in accordance with the golden rule, like we talk about all the time, you still can fit into Christianity. There's tons of Christians that are just like esoteric Christians that they don't even believe Jesus is real. How dare they? And they just follow his message. And for me, that's good enough, especially to be in a relationship with somebody. If they're following that golden rule and they're not doing unto other people, I mean, they're way ahead of most people in our society. Or most people look out, that a lot of people look out for themselves, or they just get, and again, it comes back to the fear. It's not like we're judging people. I get it, because that's how I was. But you're just looking out for yourself because there's so much scarcity and everything's going to run out and we need money and all this stuff. And so you let these things get in between you and you fight about that stuff. Where I think with you guys, it's really, it's a good example for people out there. And that's why it's cool that we're talking about this stuff, because I'm sure other people that are watching this or may watch it in the future have similar issues. They might have woke up to this stuff and a person they were in a relationship didn't, you know, so these are some of the things you might be able to bring in or talk about. But who knows?
Something you said, now I can't remember what it was, made me think of when, the do unto others thing, right? As you would have done unto you. It makes me think of people whose sole purpose on their channels is to make fun of other people and drag them down and point out flaws and all this other stuff. And it's like, to me, that's very like immature and victim-y and childish. And then some people like that end up getting their channels taken down or their channels deplatformed or demonetized or whatever you want to call that. And they're upset about it. And it's like, well, you poked those people. So can you expect anything less? You know,
especially when they're the people who run the platforms and they have small hats or whatever, you know, and they're like, yeah. And that's kind of something that happened. I don't know if you were done, but that's something that happened to me recently that we never really even addressed, but we'll bring it up a little bit. So, there was a lot of stuff going on with that James True guy, I guess. And there's people like going back and forth, and there's some people showing his videos. He used to do these, he called them dojos, where he'd have like a Zoom group and he recorded them. But people would go in there and you would kind of just talk, and you could talk about like issues you were having, and people were able to call you out if you're like being victim narrative and all this stuff, because it was like a dojo, right? So I was part of that. And this guy, I guess, found all these links to, because they were just videos that were unlisted up on YouTube. They weren't private. So he found all these links and he was going through and he's making fun of everybody. And I happened to be in one that he was making fun of. And I was talking about when I was a child, I was molested. And so he was making fun of me. So a few people hit me up and were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then I was like, guys, you don't realize, like, I used to talk about that on stage. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I know I could probably roast that guy better. I mean, I didn't even watch the episode. I didn't even look back, and I don't. Really
I didn't either. I didn't want to. I was like, I don't.
But if I did watch it, I'm sure I can make fun of him pretty accurately in about 2 seconds, and maybe even make the guy cry. You know what I mean? Because like I've done it before, not even meaning to. You know, so yeah. If you guys see any of that stuff out there, don't worry about it, because all it does is bring people to us, right? It's just gonna. If he says my name, I should have been like, it's Brandon Bonanza. Like, make sure you
check out the YouTube channel.
Yeah. But you know, yeah. So things happen. People are gonna talk shit about you, and you know all this stuff. But it doesn't mean you have to respond and talk shit.
Or you don't have to be the victim
and get into the fight. Yeah, you don't have to be the victim. Like, I'm totally not a victim. You know, I don't. It's like I was talking about that, and anytime something's recorded, I just assume that it might end up on the internet one day. So it didn't even bother me. And if you go back and watch that, because I think some people did, and I don't really remember what they said. I mean, I don't remember what I said because it was like in 2020, but they were saying something how I was talking about, I think it was Balderson, because he hit me up recently and said it was on there. And he was saying how I said that I didn't even know that it was anything bad until people told me it was bad, because it was like another, just for people to clarify, it was like another kid in the neighborhood who was older than me, you know, and some like sketchy stuff kind of happened or whatever. But I made peace with that a while ago, and it was a lot of part of my healing and stuff, honestly. You know, it's to go through a lot of that stuff and look at it. And the way I look at it now is like, I feel some people are just, this is one way you could look at it. Sometimes I'm just the kind of person that everybody wants to either be around or like hang out with or all this stuff, right? So I think that they just want your energy, and at that age or whatever it is, because of the trauma they went through, they don't realize how to take it in a correct way. So they just take it from you. And, you know, the way that sex is in this culture, like I've said before, I don't know if it's true or not, but I have said before, I think we might be in this realm to like figure out sex or our attachment to it. Maybe that was just my own demons or whatever talking, but I think that that's a lot of it, because it happens so young to people, and then it just screws people up and causes more cycles. And I was going down some pretty dark roads myself before I came into this stuff, you know, like we talked about before, like psychopaths and all that. And I was telling people how I feel like I was going down that road, but now I'm kind of like a good psychopath. Right? Because I have to actively choose in each situation. I mean, I still have an intuitional feeling, and I still am like, oh, this is fucked up, I shouldn't be doing this or whatever. But I was going down those roads. That's why I have a lot of empathy for people who do those crimes. I'm not saying that, you know, we should praise them or we should like put them off to this. You know, I'm not like trying to get any kind of sorrow for them. But what I mean is inside empathy, I can have empathy for them. You know, I'll still stop somebody in the act and kill them if I have to or whatever. But it's just that I don't have to feel like I'm a victim, because I think that is a way that this loosh gets farmed or whatever, your energy gets farmed, as they put out all these videos. I guess something's going on around now with Hollywood pedophilia. There's like a mainstream thing, Mel Gibson's involved or something, and everyone's like, they're finally getting them. And then I saw a meme that was like, Hollywood's report on Hollywood. They're like, all right, like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, guys. But I mean, no, it's cool that it's getting awareness, but I feel like also what happens, especially with the Q movement, people that have went through trauma or know people that were like molested and all this stuff, they cling to it a lot because they're like, yeah, we want redemption. We got to fix this. This is right. We got to go like fix all this stuff. And
it's like people that want reparations too.
Yeah. Where's my 40 acres and a mule? 40 acres and a mule, Jack. That's what they promised the slaves when they freed them, or whatever the hell that was. But yeah, that's what Nigel said. Right, Brandon, it's the self-knowing that leads to agape. Yeah, it's totally true. Like I had to learn to love myself, all the parts of it. And there still might be parts that I'm not proud of, but I could still look at that. And, you know, it's not like it's just something that happens. People talk about like you have a dark night of the soul and then everything is groovy and you figure it out. Well, sometimes there's like multiple layers of things you open your eyes to. Mm-hmm. But again, the biggest one is that victim narrative stuff. Cause like, you know, I think I was like 6 or 7 when that happened. You know, am I a victim? Maybe in the moment I was a victim, but am I still one now? You know, like, am I still going to let that, nothing happen? I still have all my toes and fingers and, you know, like I'm still here. You know, like I was in the Marines and I went through some crazy shit, you know, not in that regard, but just like dumping plastic into the fucking ocean. I tell that whole story. And people used to thank me for my service. I said this on stage before. I'm like, you know, you thank people for your service. You know, like, you know what I did? I'm like, one night I was on a carrier and they woke me up in the middle of the night and we just dumped tons of plastic into the ocean. I'm like, so you're welcome. So yeah, you go through this trauma, and like my parents, the same thing. I used to blame them for a lot of stuff, the way they raised me, but it's like, I could still just sit there and blame them, and that will allow me.
They're going through their own journey. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I could blame them, and that allows me to stay in this terrible behavior, because I could be like, because it's my parents' fault that I'm doing this terrible behavior because all this stuff they did to me. Or I could say what you said. They went through some shit. They had me when they were like 19 and 20, you know, and it was fucking crazy times back in the 70s. It was nuts. So I'm just happy that I'm here in one piece, you know, like, and they did provide a lot for me. I never really, you know, it's not like we were kind of like poor adjacent, but they always had stuff. They both worked really hard and all this stuff. So I can't complain at all. You know, now they give me a place to live in 2020 when I needed a place to crash. They're like, yeah, they welcomed me with open arms. So
Mama
I can't
loves
blame
you.
them, right? Who am I going to blame? I can only, the common denominator is me. Once you realize and you open your eyes to that, though, that's really the only way I think to go forward and to see it if you want to truly heal or whatever. All
yeah, and then
so loaded.
And then not in a way, like not blaming self in a way that is like shameful and guilty and all that, but like knowing that you are the common denominator in your whole entire life path. So also having compassion over that and saying, I'm just having this experience, this 3D experience. I was born into this realm by these 2 parents. They did the best they could. And here I am. I've gone through a lot of weird and interesting things that have shaped my view, my worldview, and I can use them for my good. And I can use them to grow and to move past any negative, quote, negative and bad, quote, bad experiences.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's huge. We're just doing our best. Like I always say, I'm just doing my best. Like Bill Gates, he's just doing his best, like, and he's killing it out there, literally, allegedly. Yeah, I mean, so what else did we want to talk about? I know I had a kind of an epiphany. I guess I could talk about this a little bit, and then if we think of more. See you later, Roxy. She's going to take off. Thanks for coming to hang out. Come hang out anytime.
Thank you, Roxy.
Really I had this. So there's different content creators and people out there that talk about like resets and these cataclysms that happen and all this stuff. And they'll talk about how you're not supposed to have fear, right? And that if you don't fear it, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, you'll kind of be whisked away somehow.
What's the worst that could happen to you? Everyone's going to die.
Yeah, exactly. And I had this whole epiphany about that because I was thinking that realm resets or whatever cataclysms are just like the Gom Jabbar from Dune. The Gom Jabbar. And in the beginning of Dune, this isn't even a spoiler alert if you haven't seen it because it happens right in the first chapter. Paul, basically the lead of the book, is a 15-year-old child, and his mom is a part of this order called the Bene Gesserit. And too much to explain, but this lady comes in to test his son, and she has this box, test her son, to test Jessica's son. She's another Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother. She comes in with this box. Paul has to put his hand in it, and the lady puts a needle to his neck and says, if you move your hand out of that, you're dead. Like, this is the Gom Jabbar.
Fear.
The high-handed enemy. It'll kill you with one
fear
prick.
Porn.
Exactly. That's the fear, right? It's the fear of the pain. And she says this one thing that's really cool, which is,
and even fear of death, because if you don't endure it, you will die.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna die. And she said it's the way that they test for animals. She's like, we can't have animals running around. We got to distinguish between animals and humans. We can't have an animal running around with like powers or whatever. We got to get rid of you because you're going to turn into some fucking, well, we'll see what happens in that book, what he turns into. But anyway, so they test him. They tell him not to take his hand out, and he passes it. He goes through immense pain. Even at the end, she's like, wow, that's the most I've ever administered to anybody. It's like, thanks a lot, bitch. And she's like, wow, you dealt with it. It was great. And that's the thing between the movie and the book, because in the book, he just basically tells her how it is. And in the movie, he's like a little more timid. You find that with Lord of the Rings too, like Aragorn's like a little bitch kind of sometimes. But in the book, he's just like,
I hate when the movies do that. It's so annoying.
Yeah. It's like, no, this kid is not. He was like, what? The way he was talking to her, all right, old lady or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was thinking that this whole, and I told Sharon this already, but this whole, these resets are kind of like a Gom Jabbar for everybody. And that's kind of the key. It's like, are you going to fear? Are you going to be afraid of this? Well, it's going to fucking get you then. If you're going to be afraid of it, it's going to consume you. But if not, then you'll be fine. And again, if not, I guess if I'm wrong, we're all going to die anyway. But I think it would be better to die not in fear. I think you might, I don't know how this works, but go to a better place or incarnate or whatever it is. Like, if you go ahead.
It's like the person who dies doing what they love, right? Do they care? No, they were doing what they loved, right?
Yeah, like Steve Irwin, right? Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, gets killed by like one of the most docile sea creatures there is.
That's so bizarre to me.
And all he does all day is screw around with dangerous animals, and then he goes once to swim with a manta ray, and that's right through the heart.
That is so bizarre.
Oh, that's Nigel. No woman child ever withstood that much. Yeah, exactly. Our test is crisis and observation. Exactly. And I think, so we break this down a lot. We might have talked about this before, but if we really are here to elevate our consciousness, if we are parts, little monads, parts of the whole, of the all Father, and we're here to just elevate our consciousness and rise up, like kind of talking about like the law of one, the different densities. If you get a society of people here in this physical realm that isn't doing that, that's just off all day doing escapism, they're kind of stagnating, right? And they're not getting anywhere. They're just working in the physical, and physical is more important to them. So they're building all these giant buildings, and they're building like the Tower of Babel or whatever. They want to try to rival God. Well, something in this realm is going to say that's not what this realm is for. It's here for you to learn. And if all you guys aren't learning, we're going to recycle your asses back. So here we go. And I don't even think it's a bad thing if you are one of these people that's out in the world having fun and you get zapped and turned into, petrified diamonds or whatever the hell happens to you. Then I think the energy, which is your consciousness, is going to go somewhere else. Maybe it recycles back in. Maybe you get born into a family and you get a better chance or whatever, because all the people who live through this cataclysm are going to be people who didn't fear it, most of them, right? So, what's up, Quentin? What's going on? Good to see you here. He's the one who I love
Your
Quentin. He made
theme
the
song.
my theme song for the Brandon Bonanza show. Oh no, by the way, guys, I had a busy day today, so I didn't get to set it up what I wanted to, but I talked to Benjamin Balderson, and we're going to do a live stream tomorrow night. So look for that. I'll have some links sometime tonight out for that. And if you want to hang out with us, that should be a lot of fun. But yeah,
I might not be there because I have a birthday party to go to.
No, that's all right. We see how it is, Sharon. You're fired. No, I'm just kidding.
Over Brandon show coming up next week, y'all. I'm fired.
Rivnez Beats said we'll make orgonite out of you. Exactly. You're gonna get hit with the plasma and turn into orgonite. I mean, it's still not. It's
not bad.
I guess what happens too. People. This is what Ben was saying. How I haven't really looked into it, but he was saying how every year certain linemen, people that work on electricity and stuff, sometimes they'll hit something and like their hand gets petrified and like turns to stone.
You're freaking kidding me.
Nope. So I'm gonna.
Oh my God.
I was gonna say something really nice.
You're gonna.
I won't bring it dirty. You guys.
Oh God.
I could see some guy being like, "I'm gonna petrify my penis." No.
Oh Jesus.
Don't try this at home, everybody. All right. Yeah. So I think though, if you are gonna die and recycle, that's just part of the thing, right? But some people aren't gonna have fear. And I've been in, and I had my own gum jabbar, right? I had this, and I've talked about it before, everybody, where
you went swimming.
The more I think about it, the more it blows my mind, because it really doesn't make sense, right? So everybody, the quick story, I was swimming. I wasn't even swimming. I went to the beach. We were at Ocean City.
I thought of this story because Cody and I went to the Jersey Shore last week, like a week and a half ago.
Do you want to tell yours, or you want me to tell?
No. I just thought of you because I'm just like, this stuff could just take you.
Yeah, I was in Ocean City, Maryland. And usually I grew up in Long Island Sound, so there's an island over there. It's not as crazy. Grew up on a river with crazy, the river has crazy currents, but I used to go swimming in there all the time or whatever. But so we were in Ocean City for the weekend, and there was a hurricane or something offshore. So it wasn't affecting us, but the water was just bananas. Like you could see it churning. It was crazy. So we didn't go swimming. The last day we were there, it was finally a little nice. Me and my friend were like, oh, let's just go out there and put our feet in the water. So we're standing there up to our ankles. A wave comes in. I must have been like 6 inches closer to the water than him. All of a sudden, all the sand under my feet disappears, and I just basically get pulled into the water. And I'm like, all right, I'll see you later.
Dude,
I was kind of like
that's
taking
real.
a joke about it because I'm a really good swimmer. So I didn't freak out. So I started swimming and I was bouncing. I was just bouncing. I was like, I'll be all right. I'll just bounce back because I'm really tall. So I'm bouncing and swimming. And then I got to a point where I couldn't hit the bottom unless I went underwater. So I just started to tread water. And I was like, fuck, this is crazy. And I remember I had this moment with myself where I was like, I started to panic. And I was like, well, if I panic, I'm going to die. And I said to myself, well, if this is my time to die, I guess I'm going to just have to die, but I'm going to try not to. So I just treaded water for a while. I don't know how long it was. Maybe 5-10 minutes, something like that. And the people on shore, because it was my friend and then 2 people had walked by because the beach was kind of dead anyway. There wasn't a lot of people out there, but I can hear them screaming at first. And then I really couldn't hear anything because there was just waves. And they always say you're supposed to swim parallel to the shore. And I was like, I couldn't even see the shore. So I was just trying to keep my head, and I was timing it with the waves, and I got splashed a couple times in the face with waves, but I'm good at like taking water. I just blew it out. I was fine. Like I was a Marine, everybody, I get it. So, but that's when I said that to myself. I go, well, this could be it. What am I going to do? I'm just going to keep living. And then not that much long later, my foot just hits the sand and I start bouncing back up, and I realize I'm in between. So if you have the shore and out here's the water, there was just this line in the middle of a sandbar, and on both sides the water was churning, and I just hit the sandbar. So I basically like parted the Red Sea. You know, I parted Ocean City, and I was able to just walk back in amongst this crazy thing on each side. And the more I think about it, the more it sounds like one of these events where something happens and you just don't fear and you're fine. You know, I think maybe the realm itself can't kill you unless you actually fear and like give into it, you know? Because if I said to myself, well, I guess this is it, I would have, you know, you wouldn't have been hearing about the Brandon Bonanza show, because this is before I even started doing comedy. So
what you just said reminds me that when we were there, as we were on our way home, a friend sent a link to a dude who had drowned the day before in the adjacent beach next to the one we were on.
Wow.
And he had even needed to be rescued. And I think even those guys suffered some issues. I don't know if they also died, because I didn't read the story. Cody told me about it, but it was bad enough. It was bad. Like that guy at least died. And the next day when we were there, well, we didn't realize that had happened, but as we were like on the beach and, you know, playing in the water and stuff, we felt like the guys, well, Cody was like, they seem to be a little bit like telling people to get away from certain places and just being careful. So he wondered maybe if they knew of what happened the day before and were just being way more careful, because they could tell where there were undertows and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely no joke. I was out a couple of years ago, my friend's boat. We were just here in the river. I was telling I was hanging out Monday with Zaralath and our friend Joe. Shout out to Cosmic Lichens. And we went to this place called Indian Well. It's a really cool waterfall. We went swimming, small place, but there's a river close to there. And I was telling them how I was out there one time on my friend's boat, and there was these two guys. One was in a wheelchair, and one was just this tall guy. They looked like they were like, you know, it was like a fucking Tuesday afternoon. I mean, yeah, I was there, but that's because I work weekends. So these guys definitely didn't have much going on. They were like older or whatever. And they were swimming a little bit. And then one guy started like freaking out. So we were going to shoot over there with our boat. And there was another boat that was closer. So that boat went over. So we just went amongst our business. And then the next thing we knew, there was like ambulances and like fire trucks coming down. We're like, what the hell? We get over there and we found out that one of the guys went underwater and they couldn't find him. And I was pissed because I would have saved, like, there was like 3 or 4 guys on that boat that I know that would have jumped in the water and saved the guy, because we're all like, you know, really good at swimming and all that stuff. So it's like sucks that didn't happen. But one of the cops jumped on our boat to help, so we can help him look for the guy, but they never found him. And his name was Willie, and he only had one eye. So we're like, it's fucking One Eye Willie.
No.
Yeah, so and the funny thing is, you know, those pictures I sent, people probably don't know what we're talking about, but we went by the cemetery Monday and we took some pictures. We found this Mason that was buried, I guess, and it was a statue of him, and in front of him with stairs, there was 2 sphinxes with like boobs. Dude, it was crazy. And we took all these pictures, but it was right behind that river that happened. So I don't know.
Those pictures were crazy.
Yeah. But you really never know with the water. So be safe out there. Always go swimming with a friend. That's why they say that to you. Yeah, One-Eyed Willie. They were like, his name's Willie or William or something. And we were like,
with his one eye.
Yeah. He looked like he was having a rough go at life anyway. Maybe he just decided to go for it. You know, I don't know. But yeah, man, it's crazy how that happens. So I think the same thing with these resets, because it does seem to be a thing with all these different content creators are kind of coming to a lot of the same conclusions, maybe just in their own ways. But it does seem to be a function of this realm that there is some kind of reset that happens. And of course, you get the biblical stories like Sodom and Gomorrah and all that stuff. So I would say don't even worry about moving or any of that stuff. Just do whatever you're drawn to do. Just live your everyday life. And if that shit happens, just fucking look at it and laugh, you know, like, good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we could probably start winding down here in a little bit. It's been probably about 20 minutes short of 2 hours. So yeah, that's what I would say. So any of that stuff, you know, like the archaic stuff, and he even says that too, or any of these people like Ben, the guy,
archivist,
the archivist, Old World, Florida, Longo, Narco Longo. We gotta
oh, that's him. That he's not Ben, right?
No, they're friends though.
Oh, okay.
They actually
But
just put out a show together again yet today. They did last night or something.
Stellium 7 is also friends with them or something like
Yeah.
that, or knows
Stellium
them.
7 is friends with them. And then he just had Topher on, which we were talking about. We watched that.
Wait,
And then they were talking about
did
archaics.
Topher had him on?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Topher had him on. I just saw it on
And he
Stellium's
posted
channel.
it on his, Stellium
Yeah.
reposted it. Yeah.
And I guess Topher hit him up too, because he was like, at the end, he was like, thank you so much for hitting me up. He's like, and the funny thing is in the beginning, I guess Stellium had sent
Was
Topher
Facebook
a message.
friended with him, but he
Yeah.
never read his message. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent a message in like 2019 or something, forgot about it. And I was like, oh shit, I'm already friends with him. Yeah. So it's funny how that's happens. I'm glad to see that happening because in all these other, this is probably the last thing we could talk about too a little bit. In all these other online communities, we're seeing a lot of division and splits and stuff like that. And it's good to see people coming together at common ground. And then I heard even Topher say that he's like, I can't wait to talk to Jason Brashears. And I was like, that's pretty interesting.
Indeed.
Not everybody we're friends with likes archaics, which we get. And we just got into him early. And for some reason, we just think he's like a sweetheart. I don't know. Maybe he's a terrible fucking guy. All these things, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that his message, he's saying not to fear, is very
That's the
important.
most important thing, I think.
Yeah, that's so if people could at least see that message. But again, to have all these people start to work together to figure this stuff out, because the stuff that Stellium 7 and Topher were talking about was they're putting stuff together that's pretty good. And even toward the end, Topher's like, wow, that helped me. Whatever you said, I forgot what it was, but he's like, it helped me figure out my worldview and get into that or whatever. So I think that
what I appreciate, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say what I appreciate about all the content that some of these content providers put out is that I get to make connections too about my worldview, like Topher was saying. And, it's just another way to look at this world and this realm. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if it resonates for you, check it out. You don't have to agree with everything someone says. I don't agree with everything everyone says. I take everything with a grain of salt. And what do they say? I eat the cherries and I spit the pits out or whatever.
Yeah. 100%. I feel like that was what it was like with archaics. Maybe some of his stuff is bullshit. Maybe he's making it up, but it helped me with my worldview, just get a better understanding of what's going on here about history, certain things like that. And at the end of the day, it just makes me feel better, I guess I could say. And it goes back to like we were saying about relationships, even just a one-on-one relationship, as above, so below. It's the same thing in the macro when you have these different content creators that are at war with each other or that are fighting over this or that. Let's take it back to like, remember how we all hate the system, guys, and we want to like do our own thing and talk about these ideas, and we agree about this stuff.
That's what all these people are talking about in the end.
Yeah, everybody. That's what I'm saying. Like, so if tomorrow the state stood up and sent people to your door and all this stuff, like these are the people who would be fighting and rebelling against it. That's the important thing. So I think it's cool. Not that you have to be friends with them. You don't even have to listen to them. We're not even telling all that. All we're saying is when you're spending your time actively,
you don't have to have hate in your heart for them, is what we're saying.
Yeah. When you spend your time actively hating these people and going after them, exactly like Sharon was saying earlier with the internet stuff, like you're pointing all the fingers, like the guy that was like making fun of me and James and all that stuff. And I get it if you think there's like an online cult out there and you're trying to wake up the people to it. That's cool. That's one thing. But like some dude talking about getting molested, it's like you're gonna make fun of him, dude. Like, come on, man. You're just
I know
asking for it. But like I don't even. The funny thing is like people that message me about it, like I was saying earlier, I'm just like, I've talked about this on stage. Like, did he get a copy of one of my old sets? Like, and I should even say the joke. I don't remember it exactly, but I was like, I said something like, how a lot of famous comedians, they had a lot of trauma when they were younger and they went through a lot of shit, and then because of that, they went a little crazy and then they became good comedians. I'm like, well, for me, it sucks because I was molested when I was a kid and I'm not even that funny. So,
by the way, I like your Rodney Norman shirt.
He is
a mellow fellow.
Norman. He is. See, be more like Rodney. Rodney, it's funny because not a lot of people know, but he's a Mormon, I'm like, you would never know it.
He's
talking
never
about like stoicism and like philosophy and all these old ideas. And I've had him on my show and he jives with everything that I'm saying because
he's a comedian philosopher.
Yeah.
He understands what? Go ahead.
Well, he doesn't try to push his worldview on people and tell them they have to be like a Christian or a Mormon to like his stuff. He's not just a Mormon comedian. He's somebody that just gets up there, does this silly character. If you haven't heard him, just look up Rodney Norman, check out his little clips. They're so funny. And he just is like, pretends to be the silly old man, just saying these funny things. And people, especially through 2020, a lot of people found joy through that. So I think that's really what it's more about, and again, if you want to do all this online division and arguing and hating people, it's fine. But like, I can't pick sides. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's people I like Topher and I like Balderson and I like Archaics and, I still think Owen Benjamin's funny, like all these things. But I think what happens is the people that are around them that go on the attack, and and of course you could blame the creator too, the content creators, because sometimes they know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, is that where you really, it's like Joe Dirt said, is that what you want to be doing when Jesus comes back? Is that where you want to be when Jesus comes back? You know what I mean? Like, you want to be online telling people, give them wood shop bear a hard time or whatever, it's like, I don't know, man. If people really did scam, like if Owen's mad at somebody because they thought he was a scammer, if that person really was a scammer, guess what? They're going to fucking get theirs. Like, it's going to happen. Who's going to do it? God or whoever. The universe is going to think of the best way to get them back, whoever it is. And you don't have to do nothing. You just got to do your thing and don't even worry about them. And I think that to set that example would be way better, but whatever. I love all these people. What am I going to do? I'm like the capybara.
The capybara.
I'm chilling with the alligators and I'm chilling with the pythons and chilling with the people and the other capybaras. It's like, what's going on? It's just like Jesus. He hung out with the sinners and the saints.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean you have to partake in what they're doing.
Yeah. Like, what is that saying that's like, compassion is not condoning?
Yeah. It's like, consent. Compassion is not consent.
Yeah.
And you know where I learned that from? I heard that. I mean, he probably stole from somebody, but I heard James True say that. And not that I'm talking shit about him, but from what people said to me, like someone else said that first. But I heard him say that, and it related to my life.
True.
And it helped me. And now whatever's going on there, it doesn't mean I have to be associated with it or defend it or attack it. I just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah. Something you said earlier about what would Jesus, do you want to be doing that when Jesus comes or something like that?
Yeah, Joe Dirt.
Reminds me of, I saw an article somebody posted in a chat that I'm in, and it was about like nurses that have stories about palliative care nurses that are with people in their deathbed, and the things that people say they wish they had done more of. And it's like things like, people aren't going to say, I wish I had, worked more, I wish I would have done more work and spent less time with family. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And it's like that, think of those things, when you're on your day, on your deathbed, what are you going to wish you had done more of?
Yeah. Make fun of gorgeous men online. Or do you want to make fun of them, or do you want to be, building a channel? But it's cool though. I'm happy because that just means less people are cool and as niche as us and talk about these fun things. I mean, look at our chat. It's been like an absolute blast. Everyone in here is having a great time. Nobody made fun of anybody except for maybe capybaras and I don't know, Ronald Reagan or something. But
14 peeps.
Yeah, and I think that it's because we can all get together.
Exactly, Josh Young.
We can all get together and agree that at least the golden rule is something like I'm not going to make fun of people online because I wouldn't want them making fun of me online or whatever. The making fun of is one thing, but when you're like, you have trolls that are your fans that are like attacking people and like shutting down their Instagram and shit, it's just like,
yeah, that's
what did they really
gaining from that?
And again, even if they did something, it's like they're gonna get theirs. Like Archaics, if he's the fucking all the shit that they say, it's got something's gonna happen. He's gonna get his. He's gonna have to deal with that shit, you know. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be best friends with the guy or whatever. But yeah, I think we're beating a dead horse at this point. You can lead a horse to water, but why the fuck would you want to, right? Like, if a horse can't figure out it's got to drink, why are you going to lead it to water? The horse should be leading you to water. It's got a way better nose, right? That's what we talk about. Oh, Josh Young. I've seen Joe Dirt too many times. Yeah, me too, Josh. I'm in that category. That, oh my God, Joe Dirte. That was a funny.
Dirte.
When you want it, yeah, even Quentin says it. You want to be making fun of Joe Dirt when Jesus comes back? Exactly. All right. Well, I think this has been an episode. What do you think?
Yeah. That
awesome.
was a great catching up time. Thank you.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat. I hope you guys liked this episode and enjoyed it. You seem to be having fun with us. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out every Thursday. When we premiere these, we've been doing them earlier and it seems like we're getting a better turnout and it just makes the day flow better. So maybe we'll continue this trend. Maybe not always at the same time, but let us know what you guys think in the comments. If you like this earlier time or, you know, yeah, Van Halen, not Van Hagar. I was thinking about that the other day. Oh my God, that's so funny. You said that.
What was that on Joe Dirt?
Giant chunk of poopy. Yeah, because in this, well, the Van Halen thing's different, but the poopy thing is like, you didn't see Joe Dirt, did you, Sharon?
No.
Well, it's Dana Carvey. No, not Dana Carvey.
No.
Yeah, the other one.
The other one. He was the one with Chris Farley.
Yes.
What's his freaking name? I'm blanking out right now.
Get it. He just plays this guy who's like, his parents left him in a trash can and he, you know, he's like older now and all this stuff. So he's walking around with this wagon and he has this giant meteor and he thinks it's a meteor because he saw it fall from space one night. And so he's walking around and he brings it somewhere to get checked out. And the guy's looking at it and he has like one of those things you look at diamonds with it and he's looking real close. And he's like, it's a Boeing bomb. And he's like, it's a giant chunk of poopy. And he's like, when planes are really high and they release the waste, sometimes it gets like fragmented in this thing. And like earlier, he was like eating off it. He had like ketchup on it and he was eating a fry. It was so funny. So, yeah. Anyway, I probably didn't do it justice, but go see Joe Dirt, everybody. You'll figure it out. That's not where because that's what he always says. He's like, is that where you want to be when Jesus comes back? Like someone's beating him. He's like, is this where we want to be when Jesus comes back? But yeah, shout out to the chat. Thank you guys. Make sure everybody hit thumbs up when you see this. If you want more about us, go to more, or you want to hear more about us, go to morelawsmoreproblems.com, click on the Oversharing tab, and you could find us on podcast form. You could donate to us, all this fun stuff you could do there. You can leave us suggestions and comments underneath here. Anything you want to hear us talk about, any questions you have. I mean, we talked to Zindra, we addressed her question. So anything you have, oh, she's from Sweden. Oh, well, see, you could be thankful that you're in Sweden. That's got to be pretty cool there. I mean, I'm sure it's nuts too, but
she said it's a better time for her when we stream during the day.
Oh, good. Oh, awesome.
And okay, Joe cool. too. I don't know if Joe's still here, but
yeah.
Shout out totally. To Joe.
Shout out to Joe. And yeah, just keep looking for more Oversharing episodes. And if you have ideas for guests or whatever, just let us know. And you could be our evangelist. Go if there's somebody you follow that you think should be on the Oversharing show, tell them. Be like, you should go on the Oversharing show. It's a blast. All right. Well, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing,
then you totally stop being a Karen.
That's right. So share on.
Share on. We'll see you next week. Take care. All right, it's done.